At Powing Slope, the master directs his first battle. Now Sun Chiyuan fought against Hsiaku. When Huang Tzu recognized that he was beaten and could not maintain his position, he abandoned Chiangxia and took the road to Chingchou. Kan Ning, foreseeing this, had laid an ambush outside the east gate. Soon after the fugitive, with a small following, had burst out of the gate, he found his road blocked. From horseback, Huang Tzu said, "I treated you well in the past, why do you now press me so hard?" Kan Ning angrily shouted, "I did good service for you, and yet you treated me as a pirate. Now what have you to say?" There was nothing to be said, and Huang turned his horse to escape. But Kan Ning thrust aside his men and himself rode in pursuit. Then he heard a shouting in his rear and saw Changpiu coming up. Fearing lest this other pursuer should overpass him and score the success he desired for himself, Kan fitted an arrow to his bow and shot at the fugitive. Huang was hit and fell from his steed. Then Kan Ning cut off his head. After this, joining himself to Changpiu, the two returned bearing the ghastly trophy to their lord. Sun Chiyuan ordered them to place it in a box to be taken back home and offered as a sacrifice to the manes of his father. Having rewarded the soldiers for the victory and promoted Kan Ning, Sun Chiyuan next discussed the advisability of sending a force to hold Chiangxia. But his advisor, Chang Kao, said it was useless to try to hold one city alone. It would be better to return home and prepare for the expedition that Liu Piao would surely send in revenge. They would defeat him, push home the attack and capture his district. Sun Chiyuan saw the advice was wise, so he left Chiangxia and led his army home to the east. Now Su Fei was still confined, but he got someone to go to Kan Ning to beg him to plead for mercy. Kan Ning had expected this, although the prisoner had said no word, and he was averse from leaving his friend and one-time protector to perish. "I should not have forgotten him even if he had said nothing," said Kan. When the army had reached Wuhui, the victor gave orders for Su Fei's execution that his head might be offered with that of Huang Tzu. Then Kan Ning went into his lord and said, weeping, "Long ago, if it had not been for Su Fei, my bones would have been rotting in some ditch, and how then could I have rendered service under your banner? Now he deserves death, but I cannot forget his kindness to me, and I pray you take away the honors you have bestowed on me as a set-off to his crime." Sun Chiyuan replied, "Since he once showed kindness to you, I will pardon him for your sake. But what can be done if he run away? If he be pardoned and escape death, he will be immeasurably grateful and will not go away. If he should, then will I offer my life in exchange." So the condemned man escaped death, and only one head was offered in sacrifice. After the sacrificial ceremonies, a great banquet was spread in honor of the victories. As it was proceeding suddenly, one of the guests burst into loud lamentations, drew his sword and rushed upon Kan Ning. Kan hastily rose and defended himself with the chair on which he had been sitting. The host looked at the assailant and saw it was Ling Tiong, whose father had fallen under an arrow shot by Kan Ning. The sun was now burning to avenge his father's death. Hastily leaving his place, Sun Chiyuan checked the angry officer, saying, "If he slew your noble father, then remember each was fighting for his lord for whom he was bound to exert himself to the utmost. But now that you are under one flag, and are of one house, you may not recall an ancient injury. You must regard my interests continually." Tsao Ling beat his head upon the floor and cried, saying, "But how can I not avenge this? It is a blood feud, and we may not both live under the same sky." The guests interfered, beseeching the man to forego his revenge, and at last he ceased from his murderous intention. But he sat glaring wrathfully at his enemy. So soon after, Kan Ning was dispatched with half a legion and a squadron of ships to guard Hsiaku, where he was beyond the reach of his enemy's wrath. Then Sun Chun promoted Tsao Ling, and so he was somewhat appeased. From about this time, Wu enlarged her fleets, and men were sent to various points to guard the river banks. The brother of the chieftain was placed in command at Wu Hui, and son Chun himself, with a large army, camped at Chaseng. Chu Yu, the commander-in-chief of the forces, was on the Piaoyang Lake training the naval forces, and general preparations were made for defense and attack. Here our story digresses to follow the adventures of Liu Pei. By his spies, he had tidings of the doings in the lower portion of the great river, and knew of the death of Huang Tzu. So he consulted Kai Ming as to his action. While they were discussing matters, there arrived a messenger from Liu Piao, begging Liu Pei to go to see him. Kai Ming advised him to go and said, "This call is to consult you about avenging Huang Tzu. You must take me with you and let me act as the circumstances direct. There are advantages to be got." Leaving his second brother in command at Sinye, Liu Pei set forth, taking Chang Fei with half a company as his escort. On the way he discussed the course of action with his advisor, who said, "First you must thank him for having saved you from the evil that was planned against you at Xianyang. But you must not undertake any expedition against Wu. Say, you must return to Sinye to put your army in good order." With this admonition, Liu Pei came to Chingchou and was lodged in the guest house. Chang Fei and the escort camped without the walls. In due course, Liu Pei and Kai Ming were received, and after the customary salutations, the guest apologized for his conduct. The host said, "Worthy brother, I know you were the victim of a vile plot, and I should have put the prime mover to death for it had there not been so universal a prayer for mercy. However, I remitted that penalty. I hope you do not consider that I was wrong. Mao had little to do with it. I think it was due to his subordinates," replied Pei. Piao said, "Chiangxia is lost, as you know. Huang is dead. So I have asked you to come that we might take measures of vengeance. Huang was harsh and cruel and never used his men in the proper way. That was the real cause of his fall. But have you reflected what Tsao may do on the north if we attack the south? I am getting old and weak, and I am unable to manage affairs properly. Will you aid me, brother? After I am gone, you will have this district. Why do you say this, my brother? Think you that I am equal to such a task?" Here Kai Ming glanced at Liu Pei, who continued, "But give me a little time to think it over." And at this point he took his leave. When they had reached their lodging, Kai Ming said, "Why did you decline his offer of the district? He has always been most kind and courteous. I could not take advantage of his weakness." "A perfectly kindly and gracious lord," sighed Kai Ming. Soon after, the son of Liu Piao was announced, and Liu Pei received him and led him in. The young man began to weep, saying, "My mother cannot bear the sight of me. My very life is in danger. Can you not save me, uncle? My worthy nephew, this is a family affair. You should not come to me." Kai Ming, who was present, smiled. Liu Pei turned to him to know what he should do. "This is a family affair. I cannot touch it," replied Kai Ming. The young man soon left, and when Yuan Ter was saying goodbye, he whispered, "I will get Kai Ming to return your call, and you can talk with him. He will advise you." Liu Kai thanked him and left. Next day, when the call was to be returned, Yuan Ter pretended to be suffering from colic and made that an excuse to send Kai Ming to return the call. The advisor went, and when he had reached the palace, dismounted and was led in. Liu Kai conducted him into one of the inner rooms, and when the tea had been brought, said, "I am an object of my stepmother's dislike. Can you advise me what to do? As a mere stranger guest, I can hardly have anything to do with your own bone and flesh matters. If I did, and the story got abroad, much harm might ensue." With this he rose to take leave, but Kai was unwilling to say farewell. He said, Your glory has turned in my direction. You cannot mean to go away so pointlessly. He led his visitor into a private chamber and had refreshments brought. While they ate and drank, Kai repeated his first request. What was he to do since his stepmother disliked him? It is not the sort of thing I can advise in, replied Kai-Ung-ming, as he rose for the second time to take leave. Master, if you will not reply, that is well, but why incontinently leave me? So the advisor once more seated himself, and Liu Kai said, There is an ancient writing I should like to show you. And he led his visitor to a small upper room. Where is the writing? Said Kai-Ung-ming. Instead of answering, Liu Kai wept, saying, My stepmother cannot bear me. My life is in danger. O master, will you not say a word to save me? Kai-Ung-ming flushed and rose to go away, but he found the ladder by which they had mounted had been removed. Again Kai besought some advice. Master, you fear lest it may get abroad. Is that why you are silent? Here we are between earth and sky, and what you say will come out of your mouth directly into my ear. No other soul can hear. Now can you tell me what to do? So not dissension among relatives, said Kai-Ung-ming. Is it possible for me to make any plan for you? Then is my life indeed in danger, said the young man. I will die at your feet. So saying, he pulled out a dagger and threatened to make an end of himself. Kai-Ung-ming checked him. There is a way, said he. I pray you tell me. You have heard of Sharon Shang and Chung, have you not? Sharon Shang stayed at home and died. His brother went away and lived in peace. Now that Huang Tzu is gone and Changxia is weakly defended, why do you not ask to be sent there to guard it? Then you would be out of the way of harm. Kai thanked him. Then he called to his people to restore the ladder, and he escorted Kai-Ung-ming down to the level ground. Kai-Ung-ming returned to Yuan Ter and related the whole interview. The young man soon acted on the advice given him, but his father would not at first consent to let him go. To settle his doubts, he sent for Yuan Ter, who said, Changxia is important, and your son is the most suitable man to defend it. You must let him go. The southeast will be defended by your son, the northwest I will look after. I hear that Tsao has been training a naval force, and I am afraid he has intentions against us. We must be on our guard. I know all about it. You need feel no anxiety, said Yuan Ter. He took leave of his relative and went home, while Liu Kai received command of 3 companies and went to guard Changxia. At this time Tsao suppressed the 3 high officers of state and exercised their functions himself. He appointed as his general secretaries, or Tsao Yuan, Mao Qi and Tsu Yin, and as literary secretary, S. Suma I, grandson of S. Suma Sui and son of S. Suma Fang. Thus he was strong in literary talent. He then called his military officers to a council to discuss an expedition against the south. Xiaohu Tun opened the debate saying, Liu Fei is drilling his army at Sinye and is a source of danger. He should be destroyed. Accordingly, he was appointed commander-in-chief, and 4 assistants were given him. With these, he led 10 legions to Paoangchang, whence he could observe Sinye. Sun Yu was opposed to this and said, Liu Pei is a famous warrior, and he has lately taken to himself as his director of training Chuko Liang. Caution is needed. Tun replied, Liu Pei is a mean rat. I will certainly take him prisoner. Do not despise him, said Su Shu. Remember he has Chuko Liang to help him, and so he is like a tiger who has grown wings. Tsao said, Who is this Chuko Liang? He is also called Kai-Ung-ming, and has taken a Taoist cognomen of Sleeping Dragon. He is a perfect genius, God and devil combined, the greatest marvel of the age. Do not despise him. How does he stand as compared with you? Asked Tsao. There is no comparison. I am a mere glowworm spark. He is the glory of the full moon, replied Su Shu. "You are mistaken," replied Tun. "This Chuko Liang of yours is of no account. Who would fear him? If I do not take him and his master prisoners in the first battle, then here is my head, a free gift to our lord the minister. Hasten to comfort me with news of victory," said Tsao. Siahu Tun hastened to depart. The advent of K. Ming and the extravagant deference shown him did not please Liu Pei's sworn brothers, who grumbled, saying, "He is very young, although he is clever and learned. Our brother really treats him too well. We have not seen any evidence of his wonderful skill." Liu Pei replied, "You do not know his worth. To me it seems as if the fish had got into the water again. Pray do not discuss this matter further, my brothers." They withdrew, silent but dissatisfied. One day a man presented Liu Pei with a yak's tail, and he at once put it in his cap as an ornament. K. Ming came in and noticed it at once. "Then you have renounced all ambition, my lord. You are just going to attend to this sort of thing," he quietly remarked. Yuan Ter snatched off his cap and flung it away. "I was only amusing myself with the thing," replied he. "How do you think you stand compared with Tsao? Asked K. Ming. "Inferior. Yes, your army is less than 1 legion, and the chances are 10,000 to 1 that he will attack. How can we meet him? I am greatly distressed about it, but I see no way. You might recruit and I will train them. Then we might be able to oppose him." So recruiting began, and 3 companies were enlisted. K. Ming set about drilling them diligently. Soon they heard that Siahu Tun was leading an army of 10 legions against them. When he heard it, Chang Fei said to his brother, Kuan Yu, "We will get this K. Ming to go and fight them." Just at that moment they were summoned to their brother, who asked their advice. "Why not send the water brother?" said Chang Fei. "For method I rely on K. Ming. But for action I put my faith in you, my brothers. Are you going to fail me?" They went out and K. Ming was called. "I fear your brothers will not obey me," said K. Ming. "Wherefore, if I am to direct the campaign, you must give me a seal of office and a sword of authority." So Yuan Ter gave him both. Armed with these ensigns of power, he assembled the officers to receive their orders. "We will go just to see what he will do," said one brother to the other. In the assembly K. Ming spoke, saying, "On the left of Powang are hills called Yushan. On the right is a forest, Anlin. There we will prepare an ambush. Kuan Yu will go to the former place with 1 company. He will remain there quiescent till the enemy has passed, but when he sees a flame in the south, that will be the signal to attack. He will first burn their baggage train. Chang Fei will go to a valley behind the forest. When he sees the signal, he is to go to the old stores depot at Powang and burn that. Quan Piying and Liu Feng will take half a company each, prepare combustibles and be ready with them beyond Powang slope. The enemy will arrive about dusk, and then they can start the blaze. Ko Yun, now recalled from Fancheng, is to lead the attack, but he is to lose and not win. And Liu Pei is to command the reserve. See that each one obeys these orders and let there be no mistakes." Then said Kuan Yu, "All of us are to go out to meet the enemy, but I have not yet heard what you are going to do." "I am going to guard the city." Chang Fei burst into a laugh. "We are to go out to bloody battle, and you are to stay quietly at home, quite comfortable." "Here is the sword and here the seal," replied the strategist, displaying the emblems of authority. "Disobedience of orders will be death." Liu Pei said, "Do you not understand that the plans elaborated in a little chamber decide success over thousands of lie? Do not disobey the command, my brothers." Chang Fei went out smiling cynically. Kuan Yu remarked, "Let us await the result. If he fail, then we can look to it." The brothers left. None of the officers understood anything of the general line of strategy, and though they obeyed orders, they were not without doubts and misgivings. K. Ming said to Liu Pei, You may now lead your men to the hills and camp till the enemy shall arrive tomorrow evening. Then you are to abandon the camp and move away, retreating till the signal is seen. Then you will advance and attack with all force. The two Mai and I will guard the city." In the city, he prepared banquets to celebrate the victory, and also prepared the books to record exceptional services. Liu Pei noted all these things with not a little trouble in his heart. Tsao's army in due course reached Piao. Then half of them, the veterans, were told off for the first attack, and the remainder were to guard the baggage train and supplies. Thus they marched in 2 divisions. The season was autumn, and a chilly wind began to blow. They pressed forward. Presently they saw a cloud of dust ahead of them, and the general ordered the ranks to be reformed. He questioned the guides as to the name of the place. They told him the place in front was Powang Slope, and behind them was the Laku stream. Then Siahu Tun rode to the front to reconnoiter, leaving Yu Qin and Lai Tine to finish setting out the battle array. Presently he began to laugh, and when they asked the cause of this merriment, he replied, Su Shu praised Chuko Liang to the very skies as something more than human. But now that I see how he has placed his men and the stuff he has put into his vanguard, it seems to me that he is sending dogs or sheep against tigers and leopards. I bragged a little when I said I would take him prisoner, but I am going to make good my boast." Then he rode forward at full speed. Ko Yun rode to meet him, and Tun opened a volley of abuse. "You lot, followers of Liu Pei, are only like wraiths following devils." This angered Ko Yun, and a combat began. In a little time Ko Yun turned and retreated as if he was worsted. Tun pressed after him and kept up the chase for some 10 li. Then Ko suddenly turned again and offered fight, but only to retreat after a few passes. Seeing these tactics, Han Hao, one of Tun's captains, rode up to his chief and urged him to use caution, saying he feared he was being inveigled into an ambush. "With such antagonists as these I should not fear a score of ambushes," replied Tun, pressing forward eagerly. Just as he reached the slope, he heard the roar of a bomb, and out came Liu Pei to attack. "Here is your ambush," said Siahu Tun, laughing. "I will get to Sinie this evening before I have done." He urged his men forward, and his opponents retired in measure as he advanced. As evening came on, thick clouds overcast the whole sky. The wind increased, but the leader still urged his men after the retreating foe. The 2 captains came to a narrow part of the road with reeds and rushes thick all round them. "Those who despise the enemy are beaten," said Lai Tine to Yu Qin. "Away south there the roads are narrow, and streams and mountains make the country difficult. The forests are dense, and if the enemy used fire we should be lost." "You are right," replied Qin. "I will get on and warn the commander. Perhaps he will stop. You can halt those who come up." Yu Qin rode forward shouting at the top of his voice. Siahu Tun saw him coming up and asked what was the matter. Qin told him of the state of the country and reminded him of the danger of fire. His ferocity had then somewhat abated, and he turned his steed toward his main body. Then there arose a shout behind him. A rushing noise came from in the reeds, and great tongues of flame shot up here and there. These spread, and soon the fire was in the 4 quarters and the 8 sides, and fanned by a strong wind. The Tsao troops were thrown into confusion and trampled each other down. Many perished. Ko Yun turned on them again. The commander-in-chief dashed through the fire and smoke to escape. Now Lai Tine saw that things were going very badly, so he turned to get back to Powangchang, but fell upon a body of men in the way, led by Quan Yu. He dashed into their midst and managed to get clear. Yu Qin saw the supplies were being destroyed and there was nothing left to guard, so he escaped along a bypath. 2 other captains, who came to try to save the baggage train, met Chang Fei, and one of them was slain forthwith, but the other escaped. Next morning the countryside was strewn with corpses and drenched with blood. The armies met on Powang Slope and Keungming fought with fire. A perfect strategist, he bent all men to his desire. But poor Tsao, his enemy, he trembled in his shoes before the man, who'd never fought but yet could armies use. Siahu Tung drew up the battered remains of his army and led them back to the capital. Keungming ordered his armies to collect, and as Quan and Chang rode homeward they confessed to each other that the new strategist was a fine fellow. Before long, they met him seated in a light carriage, and they dismounted and bowed before him. The remaining bodies came in. The spoil was distributed among the soldiers, and all returned to Sinye, where the populace lined the roads to bid them welcome. "We owe our lives to the prince," they cried to Liu Pei. Said Keungming, Siahu Tun has been driven off, but Tsao will come with a stronger force. "And what shall we do?" replied Liu Pei. "My plan is quite ready," said Keungming. "Always battles, nowhere rest for horse or man. Must rely on ruses, dodging where one can. The plan prepared against Tsao will be unfolded in the next chapter.